This one didn't get as much coverage as it should have done. Most people in the gaming community know what a Souls game is by now. If you don't know, allow me to explain. They're designed to kick the shit out of you. There are common points to all Souls games, courtesy of From Software starting the trend and everybody else copying them to death. You have a healing flask with a limited number of charges. Points are earned from killing enemies. You die in 2 or 3 hits. When you die, you lose all your points. Get back to your corpse and you recover your points. Accessing a checkpoint allows you to spend those points to upgrade, but restores all enemies to the level. And of course, the bosses that are meant to test your patience. Skill! I meant skill. You play the role of an independent automaton running around France, smashing hostile machines to pieces. There is a character creator, such as it is, which isn't much. You get a choice of 4 starting classes. Basically they boil down to defense, offense, rogue or technomage. I started with the defensive bodyguard. That gave me a big hammer with a built-in shield. First thing that surprised me, I can jump! In a Souls game! Jump! The best word I can find to describe the combat is clunky. Both you and the enemies move a bit awkwardly, but I could probably put that down to the fact that they're clockwork machines. The fact that they're moving unnaturally feels natural. There are bosses, because what game doesn't have bosses? Except they aren't. They're actually just souped up versions of regular hostiles. Unstable variants with more power than most. I'm struggling with this hammer. Barbarian isn't my go-to class. I'm usually like an evasive rogue or a spellcasting mage, something like that. I went with this one because the hammer had a built-in shield. That was a mistake. The ice pistol I found isn't much use either. I mean, I didn't expect much though. Like Bloodborne or DMC, it doesn't do much damage. Sudden boss? I mean, sudden not boss. and I'm dead. Okay, time for a change. Switch to the 2 swords. Holy crap! Why wasn't I doing this before? Damn! Well, now I know why the ice pistol does so little damage. Bloody hell, this guy is so screwed now. And that is what I stuck with for the rest of the game. Some of the different enemy types are simple variations of each other, with 1 or 2 changes here or there, but I like how there are different types and how they try to make them feel different from each other. Prototypes are slow and ponderous, guards have long-reaching spears, musicians have instruments that serve as cannons, statuaries carry massive columns as bludgeons. And as always in Souls games, it's wise to spam the lock-on when entering a new area. You never know what's lurking ahead of you. Some of the lighting is great, and the level set designs are very nice. When you can actually see them. The game starts in relative daylight, but as time goes on it becomes progressively darker, a la Bloodborne, except here it doesn't represent a mere tonal shift, it simply gets darker and blacker until you can barely see where you're going or what you're doing. And no, you don't get a torch. This is it. And yes, I did adjust the lighting per the developer's recommendations at the start of the game. The designers went to all this trouble to design the sets, and then they covered it with a tatty sheet. A really dark black one. But this particular Souls game is easier than most, for mainly 3 reasons. 1. You have a high-speed dodge which doesn't seem to be hampered by the weight of your equipment, weapons or armour. Again, I'm thinking Bloodborne. 2. You have a cooling system that can be triggered when you run out of stamina, instantly recharging part of the gauge. Just be careful you don't freeze yourself solid with it. That is totally a thing. And 3, in addition to the healing flask, you can carry a ridiculous number of health regenerators that are great for slowly healing between fights. It's the cooling system that made the biggest difference for me though. I mean, the game does tell you that there's a cooling system, but blink and you've missed it. It's gone, the tutorial, vroom. And it is essential to know about this. It's like Neo's chi pulsing. If you don't know about it, your stamina gauge will hobble you for the rest of the whole game. Like it did me when I first started. Fortunately, enemies are fairly stupid. They can hit and destroy each other, as well as get stuck in doorways. I thoroughly encourage you to exploit both of these issues. Most enemies are of the move forwards and hit you variety. Well, okay, all of them are, but some are a bit less predictable than that. At first, the Acolyte class enemy was a shock to me. Whirling chain balls as well as 2 smash strikes. Though I learned you can jump over the smash strikes and punish him with an overhead strike. More advanced variations of these machines add elemental effects, additional attacks, wider reaching swings, making them both unpredictable and dangerous. And from start to finish, the Acolyte is the only enemy in the game I continue to fear. Ah shit, damn it, bollocks and arse. I hate ambushes. I mean, I know they're automatons, so technically they can afford to sit in one place for 5 years waiting for someone to walk past. I know that. It doesn't help me though, because I've been on the receiving end of too many ambushes to give a toss. They're just designed to send you back to the last checkpoint, which is usually not nearby. Souls-likes are bad enough for making you trek 12 miles round in a big circle to open from the other side a thin gate that wouldn't keep out the average teenager. And yes, every single bloody door and gate in Paris is inexplicably locked from the opposite side you happen to be standing on. I mean, I know it's a video game. I know that. But every single one, really? There's so many gates and doors you have to open in this game. You will notice. Some gates will be impassable until someone decides to give you the side quest found on the other side. Opening weakened walls is even more baffling than opening the gates. She couldn't have done that before, or maybe swung a hammer at it. I have one of those in my inventory. No. She clearly needed a very specific upgrade to break down that wall. These various upgrades can be used to reach areas that were previously impassable, a la Metroidvania type games, but they can also be used in battle to damage and inflict status effects. Although I found the status effects to be not that effective and fleeting, that's probably though because I hadn't bothered upgrading my alchemy skill. I also noticed that some surfaces are a bit inconsistent. Some slightly sloped roofs will turf you off in a heartbeat. Others won't. And it's impossible to tell the difference before you stand on them. That's annoying. ask this as someone who genuinely doesn't know the answer. How many hedge mazes are there in Paris? I say hedge mazes, but you can't get lost in them. You're actually much more likely to get lost in the back streets of Paris itself. Barricades, fences. There's always a reason you can't just go where you want to bloody go. Even with the shortcuts opened and the compass pointing you to your next objective, it can still be confusing at times. There are some iconic landmarks. Or so I'm given to understand. I'm not an expert on France, okay? But this is apparently the Louvre. And of course there's a boss guarding it. But this is no mere superpowered enemy, oh no! This is a proper unique boss encounter known as a Titan. And I'd like to be able to show a gag reel of me dying over and over to it, but I can't. Because I dropped it in one attempt. In fact, not only did I drop this boss in one attempt, I died a mere 9 times in the first 4.5 hours. And then, nothing. For the next 12.5 hours. Which, by the way, included another 3 Titans. None of the Titans stopped me. None of them. I have died more times to a single fucking Dark Souls boss than I have in my entire playthrough with this. 24 hours, 10 deaths. And just in case the basic game isn't piss easy enough for you already, boom! Assist mode. More like cheat mode, only without the passwords. Now I turned it on because I was getting annoyed with a particular ambush, and I immediately crushed the ambush without needing cheaty mode, which was bloody typical. And 5 minutes later, I turned cheaty mode off. It's around about this time I kind of worked out that this game is actually really easy. And it made it boring. The assist mode, it just made it too easy, too boring, and admittedly I had it turned up to maximum. I had everything dialed up, and you don't have to do that. You can tweak the sliders and turn various things on or off and to various degrees, so you can tailor it to suit you. Now don't get me wrong, I like the inclusion of easier difficulty settings. More Souls games need them. And I don't give a toss who says otherwise in the comments section. But feel free to give a toss in the comments section. Undoubtedly though, part of the reason I found it so easy was because I sunk so many upgrades into just a single stat. I actually have the module upgrade system to thank for that. I had a couple of health upgrades installed, a cooling and a stagger upgrade. And it just meant I was steamrolling everything in my path. Normally I'd have to upgrade a damage stat plus mana or stamina to fuel it. But that wasn't necessary here, I just relied on the cooling system the whole time, meaning I didn't have to split my points. And I will admit, without the challenge that I'm used to from these kind of games, it did at certain points become a bit humdrum. Regular enemies stopped posing a threat. Even the larger ones I started to regard as unimportant, and I stopped fearing for my point total entirely. I was totally content to rack them up, knowing I wasn't going to lose them. I'm a little bit disappointed that Lies of P got all the attention. That's not a knock against Lies of P, you understand. But this was fun. I just wish I could see the world more clearly. There are flashes of detail and clearly a lot of work went into it. But it sucks that the level design department's work has been overshadowed, literally, by the lighting department. There's a difference between atmospheric and black. This is definitely the easiest Souls game I've ever played. It's not easy by any stretch of the imagination, it's still a Souls game. Some of the enemies are particularly testing, particularly those with wide swings or varied movesets. But the ease of dodging, the cooling system, and abundance of healing items all mean the combat is substantially easier to survive and recover from. Steelrising is constantly throwing the player a life ring. Most Souls games will beat you to death with it. I don't know if this is my favourite Souls game, but it's definitely one of my favourites next to Elden Ring and Code Vein. So that'll do for this video, I think. What did you think of it? Leave a like or dislike down below. What did you think of Steelrising? Did you find it as easy as me, or are you still struggling against a Titan, and can I have a little mini celebration about being worse than someone else for a change at this? Leave a comment down below. For those of you who can't get enough of my dulcet tones, you can always subscribe, ring the bell for notification, that's a separate thing. Or if you want to inflict my irritating persona on someone else, you can always share instead. See you next time.